Professor Rita Levi-Montalcini is one of the most respected and admired figures in neuroscience of the 20th century. She has, in many respects, dominated this field of science, following her seminal discovery of the nerve growth factor, recognized essential for the development of the brain and all elements of the nervous system. And a discovery that has opened up a huge area of research into all aspects of normal and abnormal growth, including cancer. Her outstanding contribution to science was recognized a relatively long time, 3 decades, after it was produced by the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine that she shared in 1986 with Stanley Cohen. She was born on April 22, 1909, to a wealthy Italian Jewish family in pre-fascist Turin and died on December 2012, aged 103. Her life appears as a series of tours de force that she was strong and wise enough to brilliantly overcome. The first one was to convince her autocratic father, a mathematician, electrical engineer, that to begin her medical studies at the University of Turin in 1930 was an appropriate choice for a young woman. He was strongly opposed to this project, but she bravely persisted. Her first mentor was Giuseppe Levi, one of Italy's greatest histologists at the time, who kindled her interest in the nervous system and was a powerful and effective teacher in science. Under the guidance and protection of Giuseppe Levi, Rita Levi-Montalcini overcame the entrenched sexism pervading medicine at that time. In 1936, she became a medical doctor, specialized in neurology and psychiatry. It was the year when Mussolini published his manifest by which non-Aryans were banned from all university posts and from practicing medicine. This began a period of great difficulties and despair, but also of perseverance. She assembled a secret laboratory in her bedroom at her parents' house in Turin, and with a rudimentary equipment, she worked on the development of the nervous system on chick embryos. Fortunately, her activities remained secret. Their discovery could have resulted in imprisonment or death. During this period, she read an article written by Victor Hamburger, an embryologist at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, in which he showed that cut off the growing limbs in the chick embryo resulted in the absence in the spinal cord of the motor neuron fated to innervate them. He proposed as an explanation to this effect that the target organ produced an inductive factor. Rita reproduced the Hamburger's results, but was not in agreement with this interpretation. Using the novel staining technique that Levi had taught her and which allowed to follow the fate of the neurons more precisely, Rita realized that the neurons were present and alive for some time after the excision of the limb, and that they died because they could not reach their target. She therefore concluded that the neuronal death was a consequence of the absence of a growing promoting substance rather than an inductive factor produced by the target of the growing neurons. Publication of this work was refused by an Italian journal because of the non-Aryan name of its author, but fortunately, it was accepted by the Belgian Archives of Biology in 1942. Hamburger happened to read this article And intrigued by the different mechanisms of action that had been postulated by Rita, he invited her to work in his laboratory for 1 or 2 years to reinvestigate this problem with him. In 1947, she left Turin for St. Louis, where she was to spend the next 26 years that she considered the happiest and most productive years of her life. After a year, serendipity entered the scene, as it often happens with great discoveries. A former student of Victor Hamburger published in 1948 a short article which was to change entirely the direction of her research. Edward Bucher reported on an experiment he had performed to test the ability of developing nerve fibers to innervate fast-growing tissues. For that purpose, he selected a mouse tumor, sarcoma 180, and he noticed that the tumor implants grafted in the body wall of chick embryo became innervated by the adjacent sensory ganglia of the host. As a result, the sensory ganglia providing the fibers to the tumor became larger than the contralateral ones. Rita and Victor reproduced the experiments and found that the effect of the tumor implants was very different from that produced by grafting supernumerary limb. The sympathetic ganglia in the vicinity of the graft became enormously enlarged. Also, their nerve fibers did not join any target, but were wandering aimlessly among the cells. Rita, with her remarkable intuition, understood that the tumor acted by releasing a growth factor of unknown nature and not by making available to the nerve fibers a larger than usual field of innervation. She thereafter showed that the tumor produced a substance that could be vehiculated by the bloodstream and act on distant sensory ganglia and sympathetic ganglia. The next step was the purification and characterization of this putative factor. It appeared that this was not feasible on the basis of these in vivo experiments. Hence, the search for a simpler and more quantitative test was necessary. The tissue culture method that started to be developed in certain laboratories at that time seemed adapted to study this problem. A friend of Rita, Herta Meyer, a former colleague of the Turin time, was in charge of the tissue culture unit in the Biophysics Institute of Rio de Janeiro, directed by the professor Carlos Chagas. With the help of her host, Herta, she set up a culture technique in which a sympathetic ganglion taken from a chick embryo was cultured adjacent to a fragment of the tumor. 12 hours later, nerve fibers had grown out of the entire periphery of the sensory and sympathetic ganglia and spread out radially around the explant like the rays of the sun, I quote her. The phenomenon turned out to be the most sensible and reliable index of the presence of this growth factor in any tissue and in body fluids as well. This dramatic example of scientific art confirmed the target-derived growth-promoting substance that she had predicted. It remained one of her favorite remembrances of her scientific series of successes. The purification and the biochemical characterization of the NGF was achieved thanks to her collaboration with the biochemist Stanley Cohen, who became interested in the phenomenon by reading her paper and had the chance to discover that snake venom was a richer source of NGF than the tumor. It is from snake venom that it succeeded to purify the factor and showed that it was a protein. At first, NGF was not universally recognized as significant. Rita Levi-Montalcini had to wait until the early 1970s when other similar factors were discovered, for the importance of NGF became undoubtedly evident. The molecular characterization and cloning of the gene was achieved later, and it turned out that it was a member of a large family of growth factors acting on the nervous system during development and adult life. It also appeared that NGF had more functions than previously thought. Not only was it shown to be important in the brain, namely for learning and memory, but its expanded role was demonstrated in other functions in the immune system, in fertility, in ophthalmology. After spending more than 3 decades in St. Louis and missing her twin sister Paula, Rita began a graduate return to Rome, where she became director of the Institute of Cell Biology at the National Research Council, which under her guidance became one of the largest research centers in Italy. In 1992, she established the Rita Levi-Montalcini Foundation, which supports women from developing countries in establishing a career in science. Long after she retired, she came to the lab every day and continued to work and even to publish until she was over 100 years old. Rita was given one of the most prestigious and rare honors as a lifetime member of the Italian Senate. She took advantage of this position to be an omnipresent advocate for Italian science. In 2002, she was the founder and president of the European Brain Research Institute. Rita Levi-Montalcini's life was remarkable in many respects because there were so few women in science at that time. She started her career, at the time she started her career, she faced many hurdles in establishing herself as an independent scientist. She had to endure obstacles due to sexism, religious discrimination, was affected by totalitarian politics and war, but was able to resist and make her way with a remarkable courage and dignity. Primo Levi, the eminent Italian writer who also suffered of persecution and bias, wrote that Rita was, I quote, a tiny lady with an indomitable will and a countenance of a princess. Thank you.